Good morning, everybody. This is the Personal Playlist Podcast, fondly referred to as the P3 on Voice Ed Radio. I'm Noah Daniel.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand, with an equal opportunity.
I'm so excited that for my fifth P3, the Personal Playlist Podcast, we have Mark Weston here at Shift Paradigm, an educational thought leader and really special human being. I like to think of this as my high five. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Noah, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm very excited to be here today. Very interested in your whole P3 concept, and I'm a big fan of Bob. So let's get at it.
That's amazing. I want you to know, actually, when I first went onto Twitter, I was really trepidatious. I didn't know how to navigate it. And you are and were like this great mayor at the Twitter gates that made it welcoming and positive. And you connect people. Every day I watch how you guide and inspire educators from all corners of the globe. So I'm so honored that we're spending this time together. What are you doing after this? I know that you're in a space that you like to get outside. What's going to happen after we're done recording?
You know, my wife and I retired to Colorado. We live up in the mountains, and so try to spend as much time outside. And so when we're done here, we're going to go to an outside market and buy some fruits and vegetables, and probably see a few folks and talk about the hike we might take tomorrow or the next day.
You know, I read a lot of your blog posts, and you get nostalgic sometimes. And when you were choosing the songs for your personal playlist, how did you begin going through the nostalgia songs to choose the one that you did?
Yeah, well, you know, it was an interesting exercise, and I came of age in kind of the music-rich late 60s and early 70s. You know, I was in college at that time, and I was really influenced by the songs of people like Neil Young, his song "Hopeless" or "Helpless," excuse me. You know, there is a place in North Ontario. Those kind of things stayed with me. Same thing with Bob Dylan and Forever Young and Just Like a Woman, Tangled Up in Blues. And then the kind of spirit of the Rolling Stones and so on. This just really stayed with me, and it became kind of how do I want to say this? It was a kind of a driving influence in my life that to try to make a difference, make a better world, and sing a happy song.
Why this song of all the songs in all the land, especially considering the different genres that you mentioned and the
Yeah. So in the 60s, there was a group. They didn't have a name, but they fronted for Bob Dylan, and they often played the backup for Bob Dylan, and they had kind of a way of writing new songs that felt old and earthy and organic. And as they kind of took off, as their careers took off, they called themselves the band. And it was kind of a joke that they did that. And so they wrote and performed songs like The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. And they had a song that they called The Wait. And in it, there was a mix of instrumentals, voices. They told stories about the land and the people. And that particular song, the first time I heard it was in the movie Easy Rider. And it stayed with me, you know, and, just rode into Nazareth and feeling about half past dead and meeting people and having things happen and one thing leads to another. That kind of epitomizes my life. And early on, I didn't understand this, but I look at it now and I realize that I'm a hiker. I'm not a camper. and that as I go through life, I go into places. I maybe pitch my tent and I stay for a while, meet people, do things, but that my destiny is to keep moving. And that song is all about that sort of movement. It's about meeting people, building relationships, helping, but then stepping away when people are able to step up and do it themselves.
Okay, well, we're going to take a load off and listen to The Weight by the band.
I pulled into Nazareth, was feeling about half-past dead. I just need some place where I can lay my head. Hey, mister, can you tell me where a man might find a bed? He just grinned and shook my hand, no was all he said. Take a load off, Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off, Fanny. And you put the load right on me. I picked up my bag.
I should have prepared you that I stop after the first chorus. I hope that wasn't rough for you.
Oh no, it's a great song, and hopefully people will listen to it. And it's a good story, and by good Canadian musicians, right?
Sure. I actually saw the Last Waltz 40th anniversary concert. It was my anniversary present to myself. My husband actually couldn't come. He had to go away on business, but my friend and I had a great time, and it sounds like you connect really deeply to the lyrics and the soundtrack that it comes from.
Well, and I think the band is a good metaphor for the work that many of us do, where there was no one singer, there was no one instrumentalist. It was a group, and they were stronger together than they were individually, and they were able to bring forth lasting music. And as the Last Waltz revealed, they touched the lives of a lot of other musicians, people like Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton and Joni Mitchell. And when they decided they were going to call it quits as a group, they invited everybody, and they had a heck of a fun party that maybe was the best rock musical ever.
It's certainly worth checking out if somebody hasn't seen The Last Waltz.
What I want to encourage your listeners to do is to kind of look at that synergy and then think about how we connect with each other through social media, in our schools, and so on. And each of us plays different instruments. Each of us has a different tone, but together we can make something that's really magnificent and beautiful. And that's kind of the reason that I feel nostalgic about that song and about that group. And they were cross-cutting, very unifying, and very powerful.
And that's what collaboration can be when it works. So I'm so glad that you connected it back to the classroom. Speaking of collaboration, you tried to collaborate with me in saying, I can't only choose one identity song, I have more. And this collaboration obviously was a positive one, because you get to have two identity songs. But when I do this in a classroom, I make students choose, because it's a critical thinking task. But because you're you, and also because I am so curious, why do you have two identity songs?
I'm old.
No.
and there's really two aspects to it. And maybe to understand it is, you've read some of my posts about my boyhood, but also kind of about how I approach education. And the origin for all of that is I grew up in a family where I was really loved and I was encouraged to grow and explore and serve. And all of this was kind of accelerated behind the scenes. And I didn't understand this when I was young, but I was the younger brother to Pamela, my sister, who was terminally ill. And I didn't know that she was terminally ill. And so I lived in this little town, and everybody else knew it. And I would just go out and have these grand adventures, meet all these people. And I later on realized that I was actually living the life of two people. I was living my life, and I was also living the life for Pamela, who couldn't leave the house. And so I had this outside life, and I would come home and talk with her. And out of that, I really developed a deep sensitivity and caring for the people I encountered along the way, and including Pamela. And so what I found is, as a young boy, that I was greeted with positivity and open arms if I put positivity out. And so one of my identity songs is by the group 10 Years After, that was fronted by Alvin Lee. And just a funny, they were a blues rock group, but a funny thing is when they were formed in 1966 and they needed a name, they called themselves 10 Years After because it was 10 years after Elvis Presley had stepped up and more or less created rock and roll. So they wrote some interesting songs. They played at Woodstock. They wrote one song that a lot of people would know. It's titled, I'd Love to Change the World. They wrote another one titled, I'm Going Home. But one of their later songs, and it was on the last album, was titled Positive Vibrations. And it talks about being alone and feeling the positive vibrations and bringing the positive vibrations forward. And as I hike through life, that's what I try to do, is to bring forth the good, bring forth the positive. And I believe that in the field of education, this is especially important because as teachers, we give, but seldom get. And there's a limit to how much we can give. Even if we want to give more, eventually you run out. And that some of us have to be on the giving back side. And so through Twitter and through other things, I want to be a positive force of encouraging people, supporting people, but also giving people hope and inspiration. And so little things like the little quotes and pictures that I put on Twitter, I didn't set out to do that. It just sort of happened accidentally, and it was so positively received by people that I thought, okay, I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. And I started getting these notes from people saying, hey, this came about at the perfect time. You touched my life. And I said, well, and I'm going, holy shit, I didn't plan on doing that. I was just trying to do something small. But it's taken off, and I take it very seriously. And my hope is that somebody in a classroom with students will maybe see a little quote, have a sense of inspiration that'll maybe help them get through the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes, the next day, and do the very important work that they do with children and with their colleagues.
I can speak for myself and say that you do that all the time, and that your light and energy is an abundance that I'm so grateful is out there. So here are your 10 years after positive vibration.
In the night, when you walk with the one that you call your own, ask yourself if you're doing good.
You are doing good, Mark, in case you don't need to listen to that song to know that. And stars might be guiding you, but you're a star that guides really so many people. And I feel so connected some days when you put a quote out there and it's the exact thing that I need to hear. So that said a lot about you. Why could you possibly need another identity song?
Well, so I think there's two parts to who I am, and I think in general who people are. And one is the energy that we put out and that attracts things back to us. Okay, and so the way I kind of view things as I hike through life is that I made a promise to myself that when I put it out there, that what I attract, I will openly accept. And so sometimes it's in the form of somebody saying, I need help. Other times it's in the form of somebody coming to me and saying, I need to help you. And I've had, through Twitter and through a variety of other experiences, by being open, I've had these incredible experiences where I've grown as a human being, and I'd like to think that the people that I've encountered have as well. So the other half of the identity is reflected in a song by the Pretenders with Chrissie Hynde singing it, saying, I'll Stand By You. It's from 1994 album Blast of the Independents, which is a whole different story. But the song for me is reflective of my personal pledge to love and support people who enter my life, regardless of how dark the times may be or how difficult it is. And I believe that within our education profession, within the teaching profession, that if we will stand together, then anything's possible. And so you'll sometimes see me on Twitter where somebody will say something or compliment me or something, and I'll try to flip it back. I think I maybe have done this with you a few times, where I'll say, I proudly stand with Noah. And then I'll put a little hashtag after it that says, join us. And I think the greatest compliment we can give anybody is to just stand with somebody, be with somebody. And so that's what this song is all about, and that's why it's important to me, is it isn't just putting the positive stuff out there. It isn't just inviting people to come back, come forward. It's saying, when you do come, you can count on me standing with you.
Amazing. Okay, your second identity song, The Pretenders, I'll Stand By You.
Oh, why you look so sad? The tears are in your eyes. Come on and come to me now. Don't be ashamed to cry. Let me see you through. 'Cause I've seen the dark side too. When the night falls on you, you don't know what to do. Nothing you confess could make me love you less. I'll stand by you. I'll stand by you. Won't let nobody hurt you. I'll stand by you.
that image of the crossroads and at your darkest hour, and that idea that you understand how much people get from feeling connected and feeling like they're not alone. Education can be lonely, and I think that every teacher deserves that feeling, and it's so great that you're able to give it to so many.
So, Noah, and I think we both have experienced this, and I think this is almost universal in our field. Teaching is very isolating, and when a teacher is in the classroom with the students, you bring your best, and but you don't have an endless reserve of that best, and so that's where it's important that we stand together, we support each other, we see the tears in someone's eyes, and we speak to it. And each year is kind of like an adventure in personal growth, if you would. And so I try to be sensitive to that, speak to that, and encourage people to connect up with each other in supportive sort of ways. And so when you look at some of the chats that I lead, I try to go deep with it, and as opposed to just sort of dealing with curricular issues or standards and tests and things like that. Try to really go into the heart of the matter, and I think that's where the really good stuff comes. And that's what this song for me is all about: is to acknowledge it, see it, and make a commitment that we'll live in the question and grow from there, if you would.
I think that part of the experience of probing people is that they're going deeper within inside themselves. And so they start to realize things that they never would have seen, and they can engage in a deeper way that impacts their practice, but also who they are as people, as educators, which are hard to separate. But there are days that it is really difficult and it is really lonely. And that's where that last song in the playlist comes in, is whether it's there to motivate you to keep pushing through something, or it's there to pick you up because you're feeling yucky and you need some sunshine. And, Mark Weston isn't available for some words of wisdom. You need to do it for yourself. And so you chose a song that I'm curious why you chose and how it helps you.
Yeah. So, Bob Dylan has had a lot of influence on my life. He's been a consistent source of inspiration, really, for my entire lifespan. And there's a lot of songs that he's written that he performed that he was identified with. One of them, for instance, "I Shall Be Released," he said, any day now, I shall be released." Those kind of lyrics are very evocative and drive me to go deeper, be more thoughtful. Some of the songs that he wrote, like the song "All Along the Watchtower," were performed by other people. And that song was actually made popular by Bob Dylan, but when Jimi Hendrix performed it...
You can't change the song entirely.
Yeah, it was a completely different song. And after it was all done, Bob Dylan basically said, "It's yours." And what he said is, what he basically said is, Jimi Hendrix played my song the way I would have played it if I was Jimi Hendrix. And but there's a line in it, again, that just sort of sticks with you. It's titled, "I Got to Find a Way Out of Here," says the Joker to the thief. And then he sort of tells this little story that's an allegory of many of our lives, that we're stuck, we're in places we don't want to be, and we have to get out. So one of the songs that he wrote in the 80s, the title of it is "Pressing On," and it's a pretty simple lyrics. It just kind of repeats itself over and over. And it was performed by Alicia Keys and recorded at Muscle Shoals Studio in Alabama, a famous recording studio. And I heard it, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And it's one of those songs that I will listen to. Sometimes I've listened to it 2 hours straight, just put it on repeat, and I'll go for a long walk, and just let it play over and over and over, because it gives me, it helps it kind of set loose some of that energy that when you don't think you can go any further, when you don't have much more to give, that the best that you can do is just to take the next step. And as happy and neat and fun-loving as this conversation can be, I'd have to say that my life has had plenty of pain and anguish. And what I've found is that the pain and the anguish is really where my deepest growth has come, and my greatest sensitivity and sympathy for others resided. And so I have a special place in my heart for people who don't give up and keep moving forward despite everything that happens to them. And that's what the song is all about for me.
Let's hear it.
I'm pressing on. Yeah, I'm pressing on. And I'm pressing on to the higher calling of my Lord. Yeah, I'm pressing on. I'm pressing on. I'm pressing on to higher calling of my Lord. Can't you see that I'm pressing on? Stop me, shake me in my mind. Say, prove to me that He's the Lord. Show me your sign. What kind of sign they need when it all comes from within? Hey, when the loss has been found, what's to come has already been. So I tell you that I'm pressing on. I'm pressing on. Y'all watch me keep pressing on to the higher calling of my Lord. Oh, one more time, 'cause I'm just pressing on. I'll keep pressing on. Keep pressing on to the higher calling of my Lord. Shake the dust off your feet, hey, don't look back. Nothing gonna hold you down. There's nothing you lack. Tell
Bob Dylan. Alicia Keys owns that song now.
She does, doesn't she? Isn't that great?
I had never heard that. Wow.
So I've got goosebumps right now. So I don't know if it works for other people, but that's one of those songs that I would just put on, hit repeat, and listen to it as I would drive to work or get up early in the morning and put on my iPhone and earphones and just go for a long walk and just listen to that over and over and over again. So, so the way I try to live my life and my personal invitation that I try to invoke every day is that that my eyes are open to the people who need me, and that the people whom I need, and that they will come forward, and that if they do, what I try to do is bring the positive, give the support, stand with them, and as I do that, I encourage myself and them to accept the higher calling, to live the life that each of us were put on this earth to live. And I don't believe any of us were put here to be passive wallflowers. We were put here to engage, bring forth, and contribute. And so these songs are an important reflection, if you would, of that kind of soundtrack of my life.
Wow. Well, it's all inspirational, and I appreciate that you brought those songs and this conversation here. And I know that any person that's going to hear this is going to be impacted by you and who you are and the roles that you play and how you use that law of attraction, because you put out so much positive energy. And I hope that you are rewarded with so much positive energy in return.
If you don't mind, I'd like to take this opportunity to give a very big, heartfelt thank you to a very special person, and she will know who she is, who entered my life at a very, very dark moment and helped me to move on and to keep pressing on and to bring the positive and to be supportive. And I hope that I can repay that through the small acts that I do.
I'm glad you took a moment to give that person a shout out. And I just want to give you one more shout out at Shift Paradigm on Twitter. Read what he has to say, listen to how he speaks, watch and attend. Are you leading a chat tonight? It's Thursday, I just realized. Are you doing What is School tonight?
We're doing What is School tonight, and consistent with what we've just been talking about, tonight it's about bagging the baggage, letting go, and moving on.
Well, I don't want to let go and move on, but I have to. I'm so grateful, really, that you're there to stand by us as educators and as individuals. And
well, and Noah, I want to acknowledge how you've stepped up and what a wonderful medium this is, and how you continue to grow. And I want to wish you the very best in your expanded ventures, and offer to be supportive in any way I can, and encourage anybody who listens to this to get to know you better and benefit from all the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you, Mark. I wish you could see my smile right now. It's hard to speak through it, but thank you so much.
I feel it, okay?
Okay, I'm going to close this out. Wow. Thank you for joining us on the P3, the Personal Playlist Podcast. I'm Noah Daniel. This is Voice Ed Radio, and I hope you have a fantastic day.